Hey, it's Mike P here. Just wanted to do a kind of overview of the MicroSquirt install. Car's a completely stock NA motor, never been opened. We've got can't see them, but factory Z32 T22 turbos. Factory exhaust manifolds. Right now it's on stock TT injectors, 370cc. Walbro 255 in the tank. I've got HKS blow-off valves on it. Going to MicroSquirt, the mass airflow goes away. We've got map sensor. Still need to clean up a lot of the wiring because I literally wired this thing up last night. Took about 4 hours total, including swapping the crank angle sensor and getting the base tune set up. Not even really map because I had to configure engine size, trigger wheel, all of that. Right now it's stock side mounts as well. Be changing that eventually. So I've got half the interior part. The gauge pods are down there. Got the wideband there. I haven't wired the wideband to the ECU yet. Gonna have to pull some of the dash stuff apart to route the wire for that. And again, I gotta finalize a lot of this wiring here. There's some wires to still hook up. I don't have like this one's IAT. I've got my bung for the IAT sensor that's gonna go in this stock intercooler pipe down here, so we get IAT right before the throttles. That'll help calculate fuel with air mass and all that. I gotta get a flex sensor, but before I do that, it's gonna be bigger injectors. Not gonna be able to run E85 with the stock injectors, obviously. When I do that, I'll do a regulator and put a 450 in the tank as well. So I got Tuner Studio open here. Key on, connects right up. You can see TPS actually needs to be calibrated for idle. Do that real quick. So that goes down to 0. Fuel load, basically 100 kPa. It's not running, it's atmospheric pressure. Air fuel, like I said, it's not hooked up right now, so this kind of does whatever it wants to. I did have it running earlier, so coolant temp. Fire it up. Do have a belt squeal I gotta fix. Not a big deal though. Obviously needs tuning, but got the fuel VE table, which needs some work. Our ignition table, which is basically the stock MicroSquirt base map, so I gotta go through that, tweak all that. The trigger wheel options, we were running the AEM trigger wheel, which is a 24-1 style trigger. So it's tooth wheel, falling edge for input capture, sparks and going high. We're running it in a wasted spark orientation. That's with the stock coils and PTU currently. I will be going to a LS coil setup later. It'll still be wasted spark. The MicroSquirt has a total ability of 4 ignition drivers, so you can run a V8 with wasted spark, or V6 with wasted spark, or you could do coil on plug with a 4-cylinder if you really wanted to. I believe the cam input we're running with the AEM wheel. On a Z31 we usually do a single wheel with a missing tooth, and that's it's got 24 teeth around the outside, and then the cylinder 1 identifier has a missing tooth in that trigger wheel. The AEM we have to do a dual wheel and run both the crank angle sensor pins. Even though it's driven off the cam, we do a trigger wheel as 12 teeth, and then we put that at crank speed. The reason for that is it's going to see half of that 24 tooth trigger, and it's going to assume that's a crank wheel at crank speed, because the crank spins at twice the speed of your cams. Your second trigger, that's assuming it's a second wheel. In this case it really isn't a second wheel, but we do have that extra resolution on the crank angle sensor with the inner wheel part of the wheel having that 1 tooth. So on the falling edge we have the cylinder 1 identifier. I've got it set up to 355 degrees, so basically that's 5 degrees before 0 degrees on the crank. I checked it with a timing light. This got the timing dead on. I could have also adjusted the crank angle sensor and left this at 0. I just did it in the software. The second trigger is assumed every rotation of the cam. That's because it's only got that 1 tooth identifier, so you have the 24 teeth around the outside, and then if you got that 1 identifier for cylinder 1, you're gonna set that cam speed. So that's how that's working. Injector dead time, you got all that settings, AFR table. Our general engine settings, we have a required fuel setup for 370cc injectors. Actually I have it at 350 right now. That's one thing I'll have to reset. This is because of my current fuel pressure. It's gonna need some tinkering. 4-stroke, 6-cylinder, 6 injectors. The thing about the MicroSquirt is it runs on batch fire injection, not sequential, so things are set up a little bit different. Our map sensor, we use the map sensor for our barometric correction. Basically key on, you get your baro. 7,500 RPM rev limiter. Tach output, self-explanatory. You want normal speed, 6-cylinder. So that's pretty much it. I mean, we got boost control in here, all that sort of fun stuff. None of that's hooked up yet, but she's running pretty decent overall. Like I said, needs tuning, but